And listen, people will say, gee, you guys are scaring us. Maybe we should. If you're going to do something, you're at the 11th hour and 59th minute right now. One of the things that's going to happen almost certainly is foreign exchange controls, where if you want to get a meaningful amount of money outside of the country, like to buy a condo or a house or real estate someplace else, forget about it. You're not going to get government approval for that.
All right. Good morning, Doug. We've got plenty to talk about in the political circus in the United States and some real facts about what's happening in the economy. But, first, for this day in history.
Well, nothing happened as far as from the Encyclopedia Britannica is concerned, except today in 1959, Hawaii became a mistake. I think that was a tragic error.
Wait, I think you said Hawaii became a mistake. Is that what you said?
Well, it was a tragic mistake, yes. But yes, it did become a state, and that was a tragic mistake, as it were. But, I don't think most Americans are familiar with the background of how Hawaii joined the Union. And I think it's kind of disturbing. It started happening early in the 19th century, but things built up to a crisis during the 1880s and the 1890s. And that was at exactly the time when all of the great European powers were trying to build empires in Africa and Southeast Asia, actually. So where could the United States start to build an empire? Well, there were people that had their eyes on Hawaii, and like, for instance, the Dole people who built a pineapple empire there. Anyway, where should we start with this? They had a king, I forget the king's name, and he was followed by Queen Lulakalani. And Lulakalani suffered a coup that was fomented by the good people at Dole Pineapple and other oligarchs, American landowners there, that evicted her with the help of the US Marines, of course. But what's interesting is when that happened, 1880s, when that happened,
1893. 1893.
1893, Grover Cleveland was in office. And I would say Grover Cleveland may be, well, he's certainly in contention for being the best president of the United States. He was an actual libertarian. He was a non-imperialist. He was anti-taxes, anti-regulations. He was a great guy. So he belongs on Mount Rushmore with Lincoln. Oh, no, strike that. With Washington, Jefferson, Grover Cleveland, and I don't know who the fourth person I would put there. Teddy Roosevelt is certainly an appealing guy. If I was to pick a president to go out and party with, have drinks with, have a poker game with, he would be pretty close to the top of the list. He was an intellectual, a writer, an adventurer, did everything, fun guy. The only problem with Teddy is that as a president, he was a perfectly horrible imperialist and statist. So you got to take the good with the bad, I guess. But Grover Cleveland, a little-known president, one of the very best. So anyway, when these guys fomented this coup, Grover Cleveland would have no part of it. He told them, no, we're not going to annex Hawaii. We're not going to turn them into a colony. We have to wait until William McKinley was elected in office to make the Hawaiian Islands a possession. So, I mean, we really just stepped in and stole it from the Hawaiian people. That's the name of the tune.
amazing. And when we were talking about this earlier, I was surprised to see that Sanford Dole was the guy behind it, because it's famous. Fruit companies are famous for being part of other coups and revolutions and all kinds of nonsense in Central America in the same century. And I just didn't realize that they also were the catalyst for this nonsense in Hawaii as well.
I guess fruit companies were the oil companies of their day.
Yeah. What a disaster.
But,
What a
but
disaster.
maybe things have changed a lot since then in some ways, because even back in those days, governments, the US government in particular, only took a few percent of the GDP of the US to do all the things that it did, most of them terrible. But today, we're talking about 40% of the GDP, and European governments, the French are the worst, about 60%. So all of these governments have gone from taking a few percent, 5%, 10, maybe 15% of the GDP of their countries, but now worldwide, governments everywhere take 35, 40, 50, 60% or more of GDPs. So governments are much more prominent and dangerous than oil companies or fruit companies ever were. And unlike oil companies and fruit companies, governments have actual armies.
Right. Yeah, so a couple of items relating to the here and now. Some news today is that the BLS reported that they revised the jobs numbers down, saying essentially what had been created from 12 months prior to March of this year was reduced by a pretty large number, 818,000 jobs. It was a statistical error that they corrected, just the line item of a pen.
That's a huge number, 818,000 jobs. Further proof that the numbers reporting of the US government is only marginally better than that of the typical South American country, frankly.
Yeah, and what's funny is that you'd think that counting the number of jobs wouldn't be that hard, since all the taxes and all the controls around all of that. You think that'd be relatively easy. But even this number, this is the current revision, but they won't have final numbers, they say, until early next year. It just takes that long to count the jobs from a year before.
Well, certainly Biden had better redouble his efforts to build back better, or Kamala, or actually neither one of them are in charge. Whoever is in charge should get on the stick, actually, before it's too late.
Well, the good news is Kamala's got a plan, and I can share a comment she made recently about that if you'd like.
Yeah, she's such fun to listen to. Actually, she's free entertainment, except she's not really free.
She's not free at all. Let's hear exactly her plan to pay for her multi-trillion-dollar economic plan.
You unveiled some economic policies last week.
Yeah.
Can you explain how you're going to pay for those? And can you give us a sense of what other policies you want to unveil going forward?
Sure. Well, I mean, you just look at it in terms of what we are talking about, for example, around children and the child tax credit and extending the EITC. It's at $6,000 for the first year of a child's life. The return on that investment in terms of what that will do and what it will pay for will be tremendous. We've seen it when we did it in the first year of our administration. We reduced child poverty by over 50%. So that's a lot of the work. And then what we're doing in terms of the tax credits, we know that there's a great return on that investment. And when we increase home ownership in America, what that means in terms of increasing the tax base, not to mention property tax base, what that does to fund schools, again, return on investment. I think it's a mistake for any person who talks about public policy to not critically evaluate how you measure the return on investment. When you are strengthening neighborhoods, strengthening communities, and in particular the economy of those communities, and investing in a broad-based economy, everybody benefits, and it pays for itself.
What do you think, Doug?
I think that minute with Kamala is worth analyzing sentence by sentence. She threw out so much bullshit and so many things that are just factually incorrect or lies. Like, what did she say? Just one thing I'm recalling. We reduced childhood poverty by 50%. Where did she get that number? First of all, it's a lie. And reduce childhood poverty, even if it's true, which it's not. At what expense? Who does she take that money from to put children and families on welfare? I mean, further destroying the integrity of Black families. You put them all on welfare and you destroy Blacks actually had a viable culture 100 years ago before they were destroyed by the state. And she would only make it worse. But she says so many things. God, I mean,
I
it's
like how I mean, it gives you a window into the way they view, even if like she's completely wrong about the approach, whether or not it works, but like the idea that they invest in their cattle herd in order to get a payoff in the future from that cattle herd. I think that's the way I think about my cattle, right? That's exactly how I think. I'm gonna switch to this breed, and I'm gonna sort of invest in their food so I can get a greater return in terms of whatever. We are cattle to them.
of course, and nobody, certainly not her or not the stupid Republicans, ever talk about the fact, wait a minute, what should the government do? And I keep bringing up the fact, just talking into the wind, that government is force, government is coercion. In a civil society, you want to limit force and coercion. So the government shouldn't do anything but having police and an army and a court system. That's at most. But she's got the government investing with social engineering, with stolen money, and nobody questions the premises. They say, well, that's not efficient. That's not effective. There are better ways for the government to do that. So the situation is very hopeless. Incidentally, to underline the hopelessness of the situation, on a Zoom call I was on yesterday, I'm on it every week with the same group of guys. It's about 30-something fund managers, basically, well-known, most of them. And the featured speakers yesterday, somebody imported a couple of suits from the Heritage Foundation and the Republican Party. And they were talking for an hour about inside baseball politics. And these people were, talking with generalities and statistics, and we should do. I listened to this and I didn't want to say, you people are idiots. You people are the problem. You people are why the Republican Party is known as the stupid party, the worthless party, the useless party. But I didn't say anything simply because they're guests. And when they're guests in your house, you can't be overtly impolite. So,
but it just shows the nature of the problem, right? They're attacking it. They think they have a better engineering plan than the Democrats do. That's their argument.
They have a better form of industrial policy. And this is true of Trump too. Trump thinks that he knows how to manipulate other people better than the Democrats do. That may be true, but I don't like to be manipulated. It's un-American.
It is. And I think on a related note to this, I have this, just, you probably didn't watch the DNC. I didn't watch, I watched little clips of it, but there's some of the speakers were, I guess, important people. Like we thought that Big Mike, for instance, might end up being the candidate herself. And her stump speech was, and the enthusiasm of the crowd watching her, at least as it came through in the recording, was super high. And you really see the political aspirations in her. But the gaslighting is strong, and her attempt to connect with the plebs is surreal, I think. So I just want to share that with you and get you to comment on it.
I'm just shocked that there weren't any. What were those 100,000 Antifa people doing? Why aren't they rioting just for the hell of it? I thought that's what they did.
Certainly have not met expectations, that's for sure.
No, I'm disappointed.
All right, so here's Here is Michelle Obama.
Most of us will never be afforded the grace of failing forward. We will never benefit from the affirmative action of generational wealth. If we bankrupt a business or choke in a crisis, we don't get a second, third, or fourth chance. If things don't go our way, we don't have the luxury of whining or cheating others to get further ahead. No. We don't get to change the rules so we always win. If we see a mountain in front of us, we don't expect there to be an escalator waiting to take us to the top. No. We put our heads down. We get to work. In America, we do something. And throughout her entire life, that's what we've seen from Kamala Harris.
Well,
What do you
she's
think?
quite a rabble rouser, actually. But wait a minute. Who is she to talk about being bailed out and falling back on great wealth and falling forward? All these ridiculous catchphrases she's using. She and Barry are worth $100 million or
At least at this stage, yeah.
Yeah. So who is she to talk about this? She got lucky. She won the lottery in politics. And all these silly chimpanzees are hooting and panting and clapping for her. It's shocking. They're
Yeah,
so-
and I like how she's like, we don't when we're not winning, we don't change the rules. What about mail-in voting? I don't know.
Well, yesterday I had proof of the fact that the Republican Party really is a stupid party. And Big Mike is an indication that the Democrats are the party of envy, and they really are the evil party. So
Yeah,
take the
and
choice, stupid or evil. And actually, stupid, that's a word we could actually talk about for sometimes it's said that stupid people are actually more dangerous than overtly evil people. Yeah, because what happens with overtly evil people is that they win and you lose, but at least they steal something and it's a transfer of wealth. Stupid people destroy things for other people and destroy things for themselves. So if you make a quadrant, and this has been done, you've got intelligent people that are win for themselves and win for others. And then you've got, they're called bandits or evil people, win for themselves, lose for others. Then you've got helpless people that lose for themselves. And then, of course, you've got stupid people, which are defined as people that lose for themselves and lose for others. But anyway, there's a quadrant that I'll have to put that up here in an explanation of this. This has been worked out by some chap that actually analyzed stupidity as a mode of being.
right. Because you could say like the bandits are like what's considered the Wall Street crowd now. They're winning, other people are losing, but it isn't destroying they aren't hurting themselves, they aren't destroying the overall system, right? They're just trying to take more of your shit through the game, the Wall Street game.
Exactly. People like that. And these political people they're destructive generally, but they're bandits, not as productive
self-interested.
in a way as the Wall Street people actually produce something. But well, anyway, it's worth talking about in the future.
Yeah, I'll find that chart so we can discuss it in the future. So one last video I have for you. This is Trump. Now, trigger warning for all you very sensitive people out there that can't handle any criticism of Trump. These are Trump's own words. So don't hold it against us. Don't hold it against us. So let me real quick. I'm gonna share it.
Basically, we're going to drill, baby, drill. We're going to get the energy prices down almost immediately, and we're going to close the border, and we're going to get the crooked ones out, the bad ones out, and we're going to let a lot of people come in, because we need more people, especially with AI coming and all of the different things, and the farmers need, everybody needs. But we're going to make sure that they're not murderers, killers, drug dealers, and the kind of people that we have largely coming in right now. Okay?
Mr. President.
But
So it was just last week where he talked about the largest mass deportation in history. And now he says, we're going to close borders. We're going to let a lot of people in, a lot of people, especially with AI, we need them. Now, I thought with AI, we didn't need people. I thought they're predicting that, humans won't need to work between robotics and AI. But he is saying, no, we need a lot of people.
Well, we got a lot of people. I mean, they say 30 million illegal aliens, 10 million of whom have arrived just in the last 4 years. But how do you get these people? How do you get rid of them? You don't, I mean, how do you round them up? And where do you send them? Because a lot of them don't have IDs anymore for the countries they came from. They can't go back to those countries. They're here. They're here. You can't deport them. To where? I mean, you get some guy speaks Spanish. How are you going to prove that he comes from El Salvador or Venezuela or pick a country,
Honduras.
any country? And you're going to put him on a plane without a passport? They're not going to accept them at the airport. They're going to put him back on the plane.
But he's not even arguing the practicalities of how to be impossible to deport them all. He's saying, no, it's kind of part of it. I think it's a bad campaigning on his point of view, because the people, his big supporters, want this illegal immigration stopped. They want something. They really endorsed the largest deportation in American history. They want that, impractical or not. And for him to say, no, we actually need a lot of people. We need more. Everyone needs more. We got to bring more in, but they're going to be the good ones. I don't know. It's a bad political decision.
The problem is Trump has his own idea of good industrial policy, and you don't need good or bad industrial policy. All you need is to get rid of regulations, which he'd like to do, and I think he'll probably try to do around the edges, not by rooting out agencies and pouring Agent Orange in the soil they grew in, but cutting them back, which is a very dangerous thing, because it's like trimming a tree. You trim a tree, it grows back stronger. And that's what will happen when the next people are in, if Trump succeeds in cutting back regulations. But if you eliminated regulations wholesale and got rid of taxes wholesale, the country would boom. You wouldn't need a wise leader. I mean, America would boom. That's all you have to do. You don't need somebody to have wise policies. Just get rid of regulations and taxes. That's all the policy you need.
Right. Yeah. But what do you, do you think Trump's idea, what he's saying here is why do you think he's kind of hedging politically, publicly on this issue? Like, it seems like a bad move on his part, almost like, it's so self-defeating for his political ambitions, because his base is like, this is a problem. This must be addressed. It has been since the last time he ran. Build the wall, right, is a huge thing. People have a big problem with this. And I just can't figure out why. He's not dumb. Why would he say this?
I don't look, there's so many things I don't understand. Why doesn't he talk about the fact, maybe he has, and I haven't heard him, that these people are being actively imported.
Right.
Given credit cards, they arrive here, they get free medical, they get free food, they're put up in hotels, they're given places to live, apartments. You want to solve the problem of migration? Well, that's the first thing you do. You stop actively.
The one thing that he would really have control over. You can't really necessarily block the entire border, make sure nobody comes, but you can absolutely destroy the incentives.
No, you can't. And why doesn't he mention that there are hundreds of millions, billions of US government money that's distributed to NGOs that in turn is distributed to people that are coming here that don't belong here, that probably have bad intentions. I mean, frankly, Michael Yan was talking about the fact, and we've got to have him on the show again, that in Ireland, it's increasingly becoming a fact, or being established as a fact, I should say, that up to 30% of the Irish population are foreign migrants. Many of them are Muslims, and they're all military age men. I mean, this is a time bomb that is waiting to go off in Ireland.
Hmm.
And where was it? Just today, there were two. Did you say that there were earlier?
Yeah,
two.
Michael sent me a video of a former, it was a former church at one time, but this facility that it was burned down. And he said there were two fires in last night in Dublin, two of these that were set in similar places.
Well, thank God they were churches and not mosques. If there were mosques, it would be an international scandal.
Would be. Yep. But this is, I mean, I only heard about it. I didn't see it in the news. I only saw it because sent it to me directly.
Oh, this is gonna be so much fun to watch from a secure location in a quiet, peaceful country in Latin America in the years to come.
I agree. Well, come back when you can. All right.
Well, will I want to? Will it be even safe to re-enter the US? I mean, who knows what kind of controls are going to, and listen, people say, gee, you guys are scaring us. Maybe we should. If you're gonna do something, you're at the 11th hour and 59th minute right now. One of the things that's going to happen almost certainly is foreign exchange controls, where if you want to get a meaningful amount of money outside of the country, like to buy a condo or a house or real estate someplace else, forget about it. You're not going to get government approval for that. And here you are in the US.
Now is the time.
Turning into a police state.
Yes, now's the time to take some action. If you want to have some capital that outside of the US, you got to act quickly. And it won't just be, I mean, capital is just one of the parts. I mean, you also, it's hard to say if Kamala wins, which we both expect she will at this point. And I saw that Gerald Celente is also quite confident she's going to win. Lots of people are, betting that she's going to win at this point.
Goodness, when Gerald gives up hope, it really is serious.
Yeah, because he's the guy who organizes the peace, the anti-war marches or peace protests. I mean, he's like so, and he's like, it's over. It's bad. So you have no idea what could be done, how government executive power could be used to regulate people and capital. It just could be extraordinary.
You've got absolutely the worst kind of people in government, and they are going to be cemented in if Kamala is installed. It's going to be scary, I think.
Yeah. All right. Well, on note, we'll leave it there for today, Doug, and be back on Friday with the question from members of the file for the record, our private member community. You can find out more about that at crisisinvesting.com.
Maybe some of the questioners will say, wait a minute, you guys are wrong. And we'll hear some critical questions based on critical thinking, and we'll have to explain a few things. Be happy to do that.
Love that. I don't really want you got to stop criticizing Trump because he's an anointed one. He was the best president ever in the whole world. In fact, those kind of comments aren't that constructive, but if you have like a real differing of opinion about what's going on, we'd love to hear it and consider it.
Right. Yes, exactly. And it's not like we're relative to the Democrats. We're not anti-Trump. I mean,
No, no, but you know what? Actually, there's something that reminds me of what Ron Paul said on a Zoom call we were on together on Monday. He said we should stop asking who's going to win and start asking who's going to lose the election. He said the American people are going to lose. That's the answer.
yes, they're endorsing the people that are looting and raping them. Doesn't matter whether they're Democrats or Republicans. They're endorsing the political class by clapping and cheering for either party. They're both horrible.
It also gets you to focus on solutions that are completely outside of your control in the hope that a white knight is going to come along and, you know, kiss your boo-boo and make it better. Instead of saying, well, what can I do right now, today, to improve my lot in life, to make sure my kids do have a future, to make sure that the capital I've squirreled away isn't seized or squandered or destroyed in some other method. I mean, when you project these hopes on these political figures, you're wasting your time and energy. There's things you could do today.
Yeah. Shepherd your capital. If you don't have capital, you're going to be a penniless peasant. And bad things happen to penniless peasants everywhere.
All right. On that happy note, we'll see you on Friday, Doug. Thanks.
Thanks, Matt.